E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Natural Health and Wellness. On Wednesdays, we cover mentoring our youth. And on Thursdays, our new show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. To be able to watch our television show on your favorite device, please go to e360tv.com and download the app for your favorite device. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jim Grant and Donna Guinois. Along with our host, Beata Severin Reed and Emerson Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Weda.
Well, hello, Mike.
Hi, Emerson. Good to see you. I'm excited today. We got a great guest lined up for the show, and one that I'm sure you know real well from all of our years on the Marketers Cruise. But Tom Beal is much more than the great MC stage presence that you see when you see him at events. He's a very close friend, known as the man behind the throne, if you will. He's run several very successful internet marketing companies that have literally made tens and tens of millions of dollars. And Tom is also probably one of the healthiest individuals that I know. And gosh, we don't want to get him talking about that. He could go off for an hour, but I'd really like to introduce everybody to Tom Beal. As I said, he's a close friend of mine and Emerson's, and we're really excited that he took time out of his busy schedule to be with us here today. So you want to bring Tom in, Emerson?
Yeah, I better put on my pirate hat so he'll recognize me.
There you go.
Because that's the way he usually sees me on the boat.
Yes, sir.
Let's bring Tom. And Tom is known as the Simplifier. The Simplifier for your life and for your business.
Yes, he is.
So let's bring him in. There's Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Emerson and Mike, so good to see you both. And yes, we've traveled the world and the seas together many years, and it's an honor to be here with you both and your audience. I'm looking forward to sharing. What was the topic today? Ideas worth knowing. I think I have some great ideas worth knowing for your audience.
I think you do too, yeah.
Yeah, so help me understand how we can kick this off and give those amazing life transformational ideas to your audience, and I'm ready to rock.
Well, Tom, I mentioned how healthy that you are, and we don't usually talk much about that, so the hell with that. Oops, not supposed to swear. No, Tom is extremely healthy, but he's also, I guess I'll call it brave, in that he tries a lot of new and very cutting edge health things.
Could be considered weird. Yeah, my life is weird. And here's one helpful hint, what ideas worth knowing. If you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're in the wrong path. You need to be the person brave enough to walk against the grain. And
boy, isn't that the truth?
Holy cow. So if I ever catch myself like, I'm going with everybody else, I know that's not leading to anywhere I would want to go intentionally. So that's idea worth knowing. Number one, it's your life. You get to choose what brings you joy. You get to choose your path. Don't just do what I did for many years, by the way. This took me a long time to get to this idea worth knowing. I am me, F you. Now, we don't swear on this show, Mike. You already said that, but I am me, F you isn't the F you that you're probably thinking about. I am me fully and unapologetically. And that's the first idea worth sharing here is you too can be you, F-U. You can be you fully and unapologetically. I guess the Maslow hierarchy of needs, that's the top of that food chain of, yes, of being self-actualized, right? So that's my way of saying I am me, F-U, fully and unapologetically. Go ahead, Emerson.
Well, I was just, as you were saying that, I was thinking about my youngest daughter at one point was very interested in performing arts and singing. And I actually had arranged for her to be able to have a nice entry into Disney, into their entertainment division. And one of the things that I remember really trying to drill into her head was, stop singing like this singer, sing like yourself. Be yourself. Have your own voice. And my wife, who, as you know, Tom, is an artist and taught art, started an art program at one of the colleges here. She actually painted for Emily's birthday when she was 17 or 18, a painting that she named Emily's Voice, because we were trying to help her find her voice, not just her voice as a singer, but her own unique voice as a person, to stand in her own space.
Correct.
And that is so important.
And so that's idea worth sharing. Number one is you can be you fully and unapologetically. And just as Emerson stated, I too wanted to be like Tony Robbins, wanted to be like Zig Ziglar, wanted to be like Brian Tracy. And it wasn't until I found my voice as coming to own Tom Beal. I can't be Tony, I can't be Brian, I can't be Zig, but I can be Tom Beal. And how I can be Tom Beal, I'm going to share 3 things of how you can be you fully and unapologetically, regardless of, in Emerson's daughter's case, is she a singer? There's lots of singers, regardless of what you do as a profession or for your profession. These 3 things separate you from all your competitors. You might want to jot these down. It's called PEP, P-E-P, your personality, your experiences, and your perspective. You can have, and you'll probably notice, like me and Emerson's a great copywriter, Mike's a great book creator, helps his clients create amazing books. There's a lot of competition out there, but no one can bring those 3 things to the table besides Emerson and besides Mike, besides me, and besides you. Your personality, your experience, and your perspective sets you apart. And guess what? What's that old saying? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. When they can see that you actually care about them and their success, that you actually have the personality, experience, and perspective to help get them from where they are to where they want to be, and you care, that's the game changer. And because guess what? There's lots of people that teach similar things that I teach. There's lots of people in Emerson's world that teach similar things he teaches, and same with Mike. But that personality, experience, and perspective separates us and attracts the right people to us, which leads to the next thing you need to understand. Another idea worth sharing. I kind of came up with the PEP. I didn't come up with this one. This one's called SW4. Being you fully and unapologetically, no matter how amazing you are, SW4 is going to kick in. What is SW4? Emerson knows it. Mike knows it. Now you're going to know it. And once you see this, it will transform you trying to be a people pleaser. You just being you fully and unapologetically. And S4 is some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. SW4. So no matter how amazing you are, we could literally, all 3 of us could go out on the corner and hand out $100 bills. Someone would be grateful and appreciate it. Some wouldn't. Like, what's this person up to? So what? Someone's waiting, right? So no matter who you are, being you fully and unapologetically with your unique personality, experience, and perspective, no matter what, some will love it, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. And this ties back into the people pleaser. So just to give you a quick backstory, I was born to teenagers, 17-year-old mother, 19-year-old father, raised around 4 divorces and 6 marriages between my 2 parents.
Wow.
On and off welfare, had lots of chaos, lots of alcoholism, abuse, neglect, a whole bunch of craziness, lots of police visits in the middle of the night. I mean, just crazy chaos was the norm for me. And so in growing up in that environment, I wanted to be approved. I wanted to feel that I'm good enough. I wanted to feel I'm lovable, I'm worthy. So that actually led me to being a top student. That actually led me to being a top athlete, which in turn led me to be a top salesperson, to be a high performer. I became a national bicycle champion. #1 in the nation for my age class at 16 years old.
Wow.
I was a top wrestler in high school. I ended up being the #1 honor man out of boot camp in the Marine Corps. And that's a great story. I'll divert back to that shortly. I ended up being #1 in 5 corporate sales positions. And then I ended up being, as Mike shared, working with many of my heroes to produce multiple tens of millions of dollars for others. But the real core to that was I wanted to feel I was worthy. I wanted to feel I was lovable. I was good enough. And that led me to be that high performer. So even though it was a negative scenario that led me to being that high performer, it produced those great results. And it literally, when I was getting my hand raised as a wrestler, look, mom, look, dad, look, everybody, am I good enough now? Or when I was a national champion, am I good enough now? Am I lovable now? The #1 honor man out of boot camp, which this is kind of crazy reflecting back. Out of my entire family, because everyone was notified that I was chosen as an honor man, which is like valedictorian. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I didn't expect anybody to even show up from my family at graduation from boot camp at Parris Island. I was shocked. I had one set of grandparents. My dad's parents actually had an RV and they traveled down. They shocked me to be there. And boy, my grandpa was so proud because he was in Pearl Harbor when it got bombed as a Navy man. And he was sitting there, and him and my grandma were getting told by everybody how great, all the other parents and grandparents were like how great their kids did. And they're like, I think Tom did all right, but I don't know. Next thing you know, they get asked to sit next to the base general. They said, "Oh, you Mr. and Mrs. Beal? Yes, your grandson has been selected as the honor man for his platoon. The base general has asked if you would be kind enough to sit next to him." So he said that was one of the proudest moments that he had. And that made me so proud, but it shocked me. And in retrospect, it shocks me, but doesn't shock me. Neither of my parents came. I don't to this day as a parent, how could I not show up to my kid's graduation? I would walk there if I had to. I don't understand, but that's just, my parents were kids when they had me, and they did give me love. I'm not saying I didn't. I had love, but they were kids, 17, 19, and they had the wherewithal. I will say this. There was a lot of pressure from both of their parents, my grandparents, to not have me even born. This was 1972. Abortion was recently legalized. And hey, you guys are just kids. Are you sure you want this baby? You sure you're ready for this baby? And I don't know how they had the fortitude to say, yes, we want this child. But it was just a blessing to be born amidst. I had strong grandparents, and I'm sure it wasn't simple questions. It was more probably directive. And I guess I can look back and see that's probably why my grandparents tried to spoil me more because they felt bad that they didn't want me born. So basically the bottom line, the thing worth sharing, the idea worth sharing to your listeners, anyone around the world. I'm not saying my story to say I had it worse than anybody, had it worse than you. Basically what I'm saying is it doesn't matter what you were born into. It doesn't matter what you grew up in and around. You're here now. You're still here, and you can be that version of you that is that best version. And circling back to Mike's discussion right off the bat of being healthy, in my journey to be successful, I thought success was just money. The more money, the more successful. And I found out money's one element, but not the whole enchilada. You need the 3 elements of success. The base is health, relationships, and finances. So write a little triangle, draw a little triangle, equilateral triangle on your sheet of paper there. And in the middle, write success. Success is a 3-pronged process. The health is the foundation. There's a quote that says, without health, you only have one goal, to be healthy. With health, you can have hundreds and thousands of goals. And trust me, we've all been there when we didn't have our health and we're like, God, please pull me through this and I'm going to be on the right path forever. Right. Yeah. So health is the foundation. And similar to how I thought success was just money, health, a lot of people just think success is the image looking back in the mirror. That's only another triangle below. So you have the triangle for success in the middle, health, relationships, and finances. Below the base of health, put another triangle, and that triangle is mental, physical, emotional / spiritual. Because guess what? We all have friends that are jacked and ripped that mentally and emotionally aren't quite there, right? And that's not a win either. That's not a win. Right? Mike's smiling like he's eating a banana sideways. What's going on, Mike?
Nothing. You just reminded me of several of my friends.
So health, just like I thought success was all money. No, it's health, relationships, and finances. Health isn't just the image in the mirror. It's your mental health, your physical health, your emotional / spiritual health. And I did emotional/spiritual because I want to keep it simple with a triangle, and 3. So I clumped them together, but they're equally important, emotional/spiritual. So each of us, so I'll continue on. I call this my Trinity success method. So that's that. You saw the success, health, relationships, and finances. You saw health is mental, physical, emotional/spiritual. Now we're going to move to relationships. Off to the side of relationships is another triangle. That's your personal relationships, your professional relationships, and your social relationships. So you can't give equal time to everybody. You can't give equal attention to everybody. You need to identify who your people are personally, professionally, and even socially. So who are your people personally? And that's, for me, significant other, children, friends, family, who are your people? And you can prioritize them and give proper attention to them, because let's just call it what it is. It's all relationships aren't equal, right? You need to know who your people are and ensure you're making proper deposits into that relationship instead of more withdrawals. So what is a deposit? Time equals love. Time is our most precious. Time is our most precious and ever fleeting asset. And if you're not investing time into your people, you're neglecting, right? And if you're wasting your time on people that aren't your people, that's double neglecting that most precious and ever fleeting asset. So I'll give one quick good idea to know that's included in my book. We'll talk about this, but this is a premise, and all these lessons that I'm sharing with you are what's discussed in this and the trainings that I give. You are not dead yet. That's not said in any type of fear. That's just set in a motivational type of thing. You're not dead yet. Guess what? The clock is ticking. We said time is our most precious and ever fleeting asset. Today is one less day we have in the entirety of our hourglass of time slipping through fast and fast and fast. Days go by quick, weeks, months, years, decades, fast in the blink of an eye. And so you're not dead yet, and you're also not living up to your potential yet. Hopefully some of these lessons will simmer in and say, you know what? Yeah, I like what he said there. And here's one that might be this one for you. This has helped me. I've gotten calls from people, as Mike said, that are doing multiple tens of millions of dollars that called me and said, dude, this one little simple thing saved my marriage and probably cost me years of pain and suffering and huge amounts of money. And here it is. First of all, you guys interested to hear what that is? Emerson, Mike, and the rest of the crowd?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
I'm in.
All right. So the idea worth sharing is small fuse versus long fuse, short fuse versus long fuse. That's the way. Short fuse versus long fuse.
Yeah.
Why is it that as entrepreneurs and as high performers, people can give a long fuse to their prospects and give a short fuse to their most important people, their significant other, their children, their business partner?
There you go.
How come you'll give your long fuse version of you to a prospect who you just met and or a business client, and you're giving a short fuse to the people who are most important to you? So in just that simple idea worth sharing, that can be the reminder to you whenever you catch yourself ready to say or do something that you're like, wait a minute, I wouldn't say or do that to a prospect or a client. I'd give that client and prospect a long fuse. If you're going to snap and be a short fuse version to your important people, hopefully you catch it. And just like any muscle, the more you work this, the more you'll be effective at controlling it. And you will not say the thing that you know you shouldn't have said to hurt that most important person to you, because you were giving them the short fuse version of you versus the long fuse version.
Tom, I just to interject something there, that's people may be watching and listening and saying, yeah, that's easy, but man, when my buttons get pushed. Well, it was pointed out to me many years ago that, who controls the wires from my buttons? They're my buttons. I control those. And in the moment, in the heat of it, when things get into that kind of vortex of accusations and yelling and anger and emotions, it's very easy to slip into that reactionary kind of a place. And something that I learned years ago, using brain science here, on a real simple level, right brain, left brain, your right brain, and left brain. Your left brain is the analytical brain, your right brain, the emotional. When one side of your brain is in operation and just consumed with something, think about when you're really in the zone, you're working on a task, you're really there. or when you're in the heat of an argument and it's just going back and forth and back and forth. When one side of the brain is so engaged, it drains the other side. And something that I learned right in line with what you're saying years ago. If I walk out, I've got to go outside. Let me go outside. And we've all heard, count to 10 and all these things. There's actually some truth in that.
Oh, yeah.
But the way that I have found works best for me, and I just give this to everybody, and this comes right back around to what you were saying about the most important people in our life.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that has come down for me is, okay, I'm going to try to figure out the most complex mathematical problem I could think of and try to figure it out in my head. And so I'm outside, 4,237,332 times 72.367. And I start doing this and there's no way I can figure it out. And what happens in seconds, you can feel that energy drain, that emotional energy drain, while your brain is trying to process this analytical thought. Mm-hmm. And within less than a minute, usually, I can walk into the other room and I can say, I apologize for the way I reacted. Mm-hmm. Folks, this isn't about who's right, who's mm-hmm. wrong, admitting you're right or the other person was right and you were wrong. This is about how we react to the people we love, what Tom is talking about, how much we give to the people we have to work with every single day, and how short that fuse can be with the people that are the most important. The most important person in the world to me is the person in the other room. Mm-hmm. And this won't even be remembered days from now. So I apologize for the way I reacted. Please forgive me.
Yeah.
And I diffuse that whole bomb that's about to go off and destroy an entire evening or a week or marriage or whatever.
Oh, yeah. And I'm reflecting as you said that. I have pictures of superheroes around my cottage here in St. Thomas, and one of them is the Incredible Hulk. So I have the trigger similar to what you just described, Emerson. I picture myself, I'm a nice, calm, cool, collected dude until it's time to not be. And then you won't like me when I'm angry. I mean, I'll be you won't like me when I'm angry. I'm really good now at controlling that anger, but
you want to be the cool, calm, collected.
Dude. I was in the United States Marine Corps. It's fight or flight. It took decades after to get in the corporate world. Thankfully, your life isn't on the line as much as it is in the Marine Corps.
But those emotions still are there.
Yeah. So it took me a long time to chill out my adrenal gland. The adrenaline starts to pump up and I start to be in that fight or flight, like it's life or death. Guess what? Most stuff that we deal with, very, very rarely, once in a decade, maybe it's a true life or death scenario. So just recognize that, and you're not dead yet. And I'll actually share so it's not a life or death situation. When you feel that energy rising, that anger rising, that's your adrenal gland doing what it's meant to do. It's meant to protect you. It's meant to say, if you're in a situation where it's fight or flight, it's telling you to run or fight for your life. Once you can recognize this, I have built in a sensor of me ooh, I can feel that rising. This is important to me. And I'm generally taking 2 of the 4 agreements by that book, The 4 Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. I'm either making an assumption about something or I'm taking something personally. That's generally what gets my adrenal gland, my adrenaline, and me turning into the Incredible Hulk. So I recognize, this is important to me because I'm either taking something personally or making an assumption. So what I've done is I've actually, in many times I can do it really fast down my head and sometimes just say, hey, I'm here for what reason? What's my desired outcome about this engagement, right? And it's not to flip a table or punch him in the face, right? That's not why I'm here, right? So what is the reason I'm here? Why? And what would be a great outcome for this? What's my desired outcome for this? So one time I was in a very tense situation in a very high level business discussion. And I don't know what who knows what other people are going through, right? Who knows? But this one guy charged at me. And as the Marine in me I played the Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you remember that one movie where in his mind, he punched the guy in the face and all. In my mind, I punched him I need him in the nuts and blah, blah. And then I also pictured myself, because he's a litigious son of a gun, getting stuffed into the back of a police car and paying lots of fines for beating him up. That wasn't the desired outcome that I wanted. So I processed this real quickly. And I said, look, I can tell this is important to you as it is for me. The reason we're here is because we want to get to this desired outcome. Is that still the desired outcome, or has that changed? And he said, and this is mine. He just charged up to me, and I thought we were going to go to fists. And he said, no, I think that's still the same. Yeah, I think that. Okay, great. I said, so great. So if that's still the same desired outcome, what do we have to say to get past all this? To what's the next step we can take to get closer to that? And we got back to business. And when I left, I was shaken. Like I had a drink, my adrenal gland was kicked in, man. I was shaken when I left that. But I outside that, I stood and witnessed the miracle of what I just had experienced. Like that person.
It really does work.
It works, right? So,
yeah, it does.
And now that's in a business relationship. In personal relationships, it can get heated too, right? And
well, what you said, making assumptions.
Yes.
Rather than make the assumption, you are basically asking. In
what's the desired outcome?
A clarifying question, though.
Correct. Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
What I think I'm hearing you say, is this what you're saying? Is this what we're looking for? Are we still in this place, or have we shifted this to a different place? The other thing you said is so smart. Gosh, this is such a life lesson too, Tom. It's like, it's not smart to let your first emotion be taking things personally. 9 times out of 10, it's not. Look, when a guy cuts you off in traffic going to work, he didn't get up that morning and say, I'm going to look for somebody driving your kind of car, and I'm going to look for somebody who works at this company, and I'm going to look at somebody that I can just cut off and he doesn't even know who you are, and he's not going to remember it 2 minutes from now.
Right.
But so often we can be seething with this the whole day, like it was a very personal affront to us. And if we, gosh, that's so brilliant. If we just get out of that place and assume it's not a personal thing,
right? Assume
it's not an attack.
If you're going to make an assumption, assume the best.
Assume the best. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And on that same note, Emerson, I mean, this happens in all areas. You hit on one thing, road rage. I mean, I can give a real world example. While I was in Boca Raton on a scooter and on A1A, I'm going probably a little above the speed limit. And this guy's riding on me, passes me, cuts me off, and spits up all these rocks on me. And at the next stoplight, I pull up next to this car and knock on his window. He rolls the window down. He's a young kid, and he was scared. He's like, I said, do you realize what you just did back there? You kicked up a whole bunch of rocks. Not only that, but you were riding my tail like for so long. Then you kicked the rocks up on me. Then you cut me off. And I said, I just don't appreciate that. And he left and he apologized. But I actually, Emerson, processed that a little bit further. And I said, we're in Florida. What if that's an old man and he's packing heat? Because a lot of old men are packing heat. Some dude knocking on the window, I could have got shot and killed for that feeling of justification, for that being right. And so I said at that moment, I said, Emerson, related to vehicles and cars, all that stuff, even if they're in the wrong, I'm not going to gain anything from it.
By have a good life.
Right.
Have a good life.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of my mentors used to say, particularly when I was talking about my soon-to-be ex-wife, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And, it's your choice. I mean, you were definitely within your rights to knock on that window, but you'd have been happier not getting shot. So
absolutely. Yeah. And it hit me after that and the kid was super apologetic, but it hit me like, holy crap, I'm in Florida and there's a lot of the population is packing heat, and an old man or old woman could have felt intimidated and blasted me, justifiably so. And I could have been dead for something as simple as that. And is it worth it? No. And so you're not dead yet, but you don't want to expedite that. I want to be here for many decades to come, right? So using your proper discernment and some of the things that we're sharing with you here today, you can make proper choices to help you become that better version of yourself in your health, in your relationships, in your financial situation by making smarter choices. Some of them we've discussed. The short fuse, the long fuse might be a powerful one for you. What I'm going to share now is my near-death experience. I'm not sure if you watching this have ever studied any near-death experiences, but I have been walking towards the bright white light after a severe car accident on September 11th, 1998, on a country road in upstate New York, Geneva, New York. Took a curve too fast. There was no shoulder on that road. I got into this gravel, spun sideways, hit traction, cut across the road, got in a field, hit an embankment, and rolled 4 times and was ejected from the sunroof. Next thing you know, I'm laying in the field, and then I see someone laying in the field. I'm about 20, 30 feet in the air. This is my experience. And it's confusing to me. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I saw it was me in the field. And next thing you know, I'm pulled up and it's all bright white light. And I'm standing there confused. And I see my sisters at my funeral. And I was 24 at the time, about to turn 25. Wow. And my sisters were 14 and 12. And I saw them crying at my funeral. And it brought much pain to me. And I was like, whoa, that sucks. And then something or someone came and put their arm around me. And all the fear went away. And it was just complete peaceful. It was like coming home. And even though it was all bright white light, now we turn 180 degrees and we're facing these huge doors. And we start walking towards them. And halfway there, I said, stop. This isn't how it's supposed to end. I know you had more for me to accomplish. Send me back. And next thing you know, I wake up in intensive care. I'd been helicopter lifted from that accident scene. There's details I found out later. They thought I was going to be dead by the time I got there. So I was a John Doe. They kept my ID. There's protocol for if the person's dead on departure or dead on arrival. For whatever reason, they kept my ID. So when I showed up there, I was a John Doe in the hospital. My family didn't know where I was for many hours. But I woke up with a respirator breathing for me. And all I can remember is it sucks to have a respirator breathing for you when you're conscious. And then they finally get that out. And then I learned later I had aphasia, which is you think your thoughts that you want to say, but the words come out random, jumble, absolutely nothing to do with what you're thinking. Just a mishmash of words. And I also had nerve damage to my leg. So the doctors and nurses were telling me and my family that I may never walk or talk properly again. And I couldn't walk or talk, but I could shake my head. And I just shook my head no. I never pictured myself not walking and talking. I pictured myself walking and talking and getting out of there as quickly as possible. Against doctor orders, within a few days, I signed a whole stack of early release papers against their orders when I could walk with an old person walker. And I didn't go to physical therapy or anything like that, but I just continually improved my legs, my leg and my speaking. And I am walking and talking. And I also have an excuse if I say and do stupid stuff. It could be from the head injury. But the big lesson.
I tell people that all the time from my traumatic brain injury.
Yes.
I say, well, I have short-term, my long-term memory wasn't affected, but short-term stuff, keeping up with a long list of things when people have a lot of details. And I say, well, I really have a hard time. I get lost in that. And I have people, and Mike teases me about it sometimes. Yeah, well, that's just getting older. I go, yeah, but I have a better excuse. We have a better excuse, Tom.
Yep. And so the big takeaway for you listening and for Emerson and Mike as well that I have from that, I wish I could press a button on everybody to have a near-death experience takeaway without having to have the near-death experience. Yeah. Is I now am certain I can't die and won't die a second early or a second after it's my time to die. So that goes back to you're not dead yet. So and this also goes back to making the proper discernment on your actions. I'm not going to go jump off this balcony when we're done. Like, you make the proper actions, but when it's my time to go, it's my time to go. It won't be a second earlier. It won't be a second later. So that also transfers me into the flip side of that. You're not dead yet. Live before you die. Yes. I'm going to live fully and unapologetically while I can, because I share this analogy that life is like a brief trip to the greatest amusement park in the universe. And when we go to the amusement park, if we go with friends or family, whether it's for a day, 2 days, 3 days, or a week, it's over like that. We've been on the multiple marketers cruises together. I say from the first day on the cruise, before you know it, we'll be packing up and leaving. So make sure
you say that every single year. Yeah.
Make sure you squeeze out as much joy as you can and know that and trust it's going to unfold perfectly. But go for it. Don't sit idly, because before you know it, we're going to be like, holy crap, I can't believe it's over already. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how life is. The cruises we've been on are 7 or 8 days. This is pretty much a 7 or 8 decade cruise that we're on as this little getaway to be a human here. And we have friends and family that aren't here any longer, right? They didn't live the 70 or 80 years. They're gone already, right? So the rub on that is Just like the cruises we've been on, the many cruises, they're over before you know it. So is this life. Crap, look at the grays right now. I'm 50 years old. Holy crap, how did that happen? 30 years ago, I was graduating as the honor man from boot camp. What the heck? How the decades are rolling by. Life, that hourglass, the sands of time are trucking by, and time is your most precious, never fleeting asset. So if there's anything I can encourage you to do, is to live while you're here. Squeeze out as much joy as you can in your own unique way. Because guess what? When we go to the music park, we all don't want to ride the same rides. And the goal isn't to ride every ride, right? You want to get selective. Here's discerning what we know, what we like, what we don't like. Here's the rides I want to ride and enjoy. Go do that. Go basically dream bigger and go live your dream with excitement, with passion, with a pep in your step. When you're at the music park, you're walking with purpose. You're not sitting on the bench staring at your phone. Well, guess what? How many of us, like with this little device, this is a handy device, but it also can steal your most precious and ever fleeting asset of time.
Oh boy, that's the truth.
Let me give you an example of this. So 30 minutes of mindless swiping, 30 minutes of just mindlessly swiping through Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the dating sites, all the whatever sites, 30 minutes a day. And you watching this probably say, yeah, that's nothing. I can mindlessly swipe for hours. Well, you're not alone. That's society. But just this example should plant a huge seed in your brain of like, holy cow. I've actually had multi-deca millionaires reach out to me and say, dude, I just caught myself mindlessly swiping. I thought of you. Thank you. Mindlessly swiping for 30 minutes a day throughout the whole year. At the end of a year of 30 minutes only, your mind is going to be blown. It's 4.5 40-hour work weeks of wasted time. Yeah. We've all had 40-hour work weeks, and that's a long time. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. 30 minutes a day throughout the year is 4.5 40-hour work weeks wasted. And you're already saying, well, crap, I mindlessly swipe more than 30 minutes. Okay, let's go with an hour, which is well below the average. An hour is 9 40-hour work weeks, 2 months and 1 week. Let that settle in. Are you going to waste your life? Or are you going to invest your life? Are you going to waste your time at the music park, sitting on the bench, whacking up at your phone? Or are you going to get up and go with purpose? And when me and my family go, I mean, at the end of the day, me and my kids, we fist bump. Like, no one had more fun than us here today. It's impossible. We went for it. That's my goal for you. At the end of this ride, like when I'm on my deathbed, for those that are around me, and who knows how it'll go, I'm hoping here many more decades, there'll be some fist bumps. Like nobody went for it like we did. We went for it. We made the most of it. I want that for you.
It's so interesting. Hearing you say that, because I've done consulting for so many years and been able to set my own schedule like you are able to, or Mike is able to, I got to be the dad who went on almost just about every field trip that each one of my 3 daughters had their entire school years. Often I was the only dad. There might be 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 moms. I was often the only guy. And when we would go to amusement parks, which we did once or twice a year with each one of them, 2 or 3 times a year on these field trips, I'm saying, not the personal times that we would go. When we would go, I would always have 15 or 20 girls. I had 3 daughters, 15 or 20 girls, a gaggle of girls around me. Oh, we want to go with you, Mr. Brantley. Well, I began to understand a lot of the other chaperones would be sitting on benches talking about how rotten this kid was or that kid was, or how they can't get this one to do it. Talking about all of the stuff, the problems. Here they are at a theme park, at an amusement park, and they had this unique moment to spend hours, just them with their son or their daughter. And they would be sitting around complaining and smoking their cigarettes or whatever about them. I would just be going, hey, y'all want to do the bungee jump? Let's do the bungee jump. Oh no, I couldn't do that, Mr. Brantley. Yeah, you can do that. Come on, we'll go do it. And
you're squeezing the joy. Yeah,
it's the joy. It's the experience, and that's really at the heart of a big part of what you're about, is finding that joy and adventure, regardless of whether you have a business you're trying to run, or it's your family, or you're having financial things and struggles. Right. But finding in whatever place you're at, to find that adventure and joy, and make it into something that becomes the bedrock of everything in your life. Talk
100%.
talk with him a little bit more about that, because that really is the core of what you're saying there.
Regardless of what you're going through, regardless of how bad certain situations may be in your health, in your relationships, or in your finances, you're still here, right? And you still got a chance. But the reality is you become what you think about most of the time.
Yes.
And most of the time isn't some of the times you do, some of the times you don't know. It's what you give your attention to most. So what you're thinking about and what you're focusing on becomes more. So if you're talking about how bad this is or how terrible this is or how,
guess what?
yeah, you're going to get more of that bad, terrible, and ridiculous scenario. So the key in life is to get focused on what do I want? So the question that you want to ask yourself is, where am I in my health on a scale of 0 to 5? Where am I in my key relationships on a scale of 0 to 5? Where am I in my finances on a scale of 0 to 5? Be brutally honest with yourself. The worst person you can lie to is yourself. Stop lying to yourself. If your health's in the crapper, give yourself a 1. If your health's, if your finances are in the crapper, give yourself a 1. And then ask yourself, where could I be? Where can I envision myself? Because the other side to this is, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
You're right.
If you don't think you can improve your health, you're right. You can't improve your health. If you don't think you can improve your relationships, you're right. You can't improve your relationships. You don't think you can improve your finances, you're right. So what if it were possible for you to be a healthier version? What if it was possible for you to have more fulfilling relationships? What if it was possible for you to have more financial resources? Until you can bridge that gap to believe that it is possible for you, if these other people can do it, I can do it too. Then sadly, if you don't think you can, it's impossible. You need to bridge that gap and say, you know what? Here's the cool part. This is what we're talking about. I've been called the Uber of success. I'm known as the Simplifier, but I'm also the Uber of success. Let's think about this from an Uber perspective. They need to know 2 things. Where exactly are you, and where exactly do you want to go?
Yep.
Same thing applies for your health, your relationships, your finances. Where exactly are you? And guess what? If you give me, which Uber doesn't even allow anymore, a fake address, if I show up there, you're not there. You can't lie to yourself about what your starting point is. And you also need to be clear on where you want to end up. So those 2 things are key to your health, your relationships, and your finances, and 2, you experiencing life in a joyous manner. And by the way, let me share with you the 2-word purpose for you being here. Your soul came here and inhabited your body because it was here to do this: joyously create. You're here to joyously create. We each joyously create in different ways. That's the beauty of it. But let me back up and share. I'm here in St. Thomas. Out there in the water, there's yachts that are worth $100 million, $200 million out there. And, we could rent a yacht. It's costly, but you can rent a yacht. A big yacht like that will cost $150,000, $200,000 for the week plus gas, right? Which is not inexpensive. That's another $100,000, right? You can rent nice planes. You can rent nice cars. Let me ask this to you. This is another idea worth sharing, idea worth knowing. If Steve Jobs could rent your body, Mike's body, Brent Emerson's body, my body, your body watching this, how much would he rent your body for one day? He died with about $60 billion.
Right.
The answer is all and then some. If he could, your body
For one day.
As you look in the mirror, you're like, not my body. Yes, your body. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be a flashy yacht. And think about it. Yachts you can rent for $150,000.
Hold your book up again, cause
yep.
You're not dead yet.
Right. You're not dead yet. That's right. So know that your body is a unique make and model. Mine's a 1972 Tom Beal model. It kicks pretty much some butt. It kicks some butt. We got Mike Lewis with his 1900 model. He's 1900. Emerson 1895 model. Right? Now I'm just messing. I'm 50 and I'm old as can be, but they're a little bit older than me. A little bit.
No, my daughter's 52. So
52.
Yeah.
Right?
No, she's 50. 50.
Oh, 50, not 52. Okay.
No, God, you get me killed.
50 also. Yes, 50 also.
Yeah.
Along the. Go ahead, Mike. Right. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to totally agree with Tom. You guys both know, because you see a lot of what I do in the book creation business,
right?
That the most frustrating thing is to see somebody die with their story still inside them. Yep. And I'm not going to go into the details, but Tom and I had a really close friend that I let that happen to, and it bothered me for years afterwards. So it's, we've all got a story inside of us, and it doesn't matter who else it's important to, as long as it's important to you. And I just, whenever I find myself going a little off the path that I want to be on, I ask myself, when I look back in hindsight, usually I say, that day, I'm going to be real unhappy that I did what I did. Whether that's, skipping going to the gym, eating more than I should, speaking unkindly of someone. I'm not that person. So when I do those kind of things, first thing I do is apologize to whoever I did it to. Usually that's me that I'm apologizing to, because nobody else knows I let him down. But Tom mentioned something else real interesting, Emerson. And part of it is deciding where your life's going to go. And what I preach is that if you want to know what to do next, you dream forward and picture the lifestyle that you want to have. I don't care whether it's in a year or in 5 years, but picture the lifestyle that you want to have in your dream, and then plan backwards, and it'll tell you what step do I have to do to get here? What step did I have to do before that? Where did I have to start at? It gets real easy. If you know where you're going, what you need to do next is right in front of you. Now, a lot of us don't want to face that. We don't want to eat that frog, as our friend Mr. Tracy would say. But that's all it takes to become in control of your life, is to just say, that's not who I am. And
I'm better than this.
I'm better than this. Change. That's right.
Yep.
Well, and so often somebody can be in situations, and you've mentioned several different options, where it just seems like such a huge gap. How will I ever
absolutely
reach this point? How will I ever achieve this health level, or this weight level, or this income level, or this promotions level, or whatever it is? How will I ever reach it? And there's a wonderful thing. You've heard me talk about this before. Talk about it. There's a wonderful concept in the Japanese culture called Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. And when you do what Mike was saying and what you were saying, and you establish that's the place over here. This isn't about, this is so far above beyond just goal setting. This is about recognizing every day and every way I can get better and better and better. And I can get closer and closer and closer. But I need to know what I'm working towards.
correct.
And if I do, then I can achieve that if every day I'm focused on what one thing can I do, or two things, whatever, but basically the concept, what can I do today and improve from where I was at yesterday, and improve the next day, and improve the next day towards that goal.
Yep. And here's my take on that as well, which what you both said is absolutely spot on. So my mantra is, what's mine to do now? And when I was in workaholic mode years ago, I thought the only acceptable answer was a revenue producing activity. Sometimes what's mine to do is close everything down and go work on health, or go work on relationships. It's not all about just the money. So when I was in workaholic mode, the only acceptable answer was, what's mine to do is a revenue producing activity. So when I'm spending time with my kids or taking care of myself, I'm feeling guilty about that. I've since,
and a lot of people take that, what's the best use of my time? And it always comes down to that workaholic mode.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not that. Sometimes you need to trust your discernment and build the openness to be realizing that it's not, success isn't just money, it's health, relationships, and finances. So what's mine to do? Sometimes it's to shut everything down and go do some health activities. Sometimes it's shut everything down, go spend times with your children or significant other. Other times it's to do revenue producing activities. But where that circles back to is, what's mine to do now, and trusting your discernment. And it's the law of sowing and reaping. I mean, let's bring that right back to the field analogy. Like, sowing and reaping is sowing the proper seeds in a field and reaping the results of that field. When you get a field, I grew up as a farmer, and the field's a mess. You got to go out there and till the soil. You got to go out there and get it ready for the seeds to be planted. Get rid of all the weeds and all that nonsense out there. Then plant the seeds, then give it the proper nutrition, give it the proper water, and you detach from the outcome. That's really what it goes back to, Emerson. If you're sowing the proper seeds, doing what's yours to do on a continual basis, the outcome is a given. It's not a wonder if it's going to happen or not. If you're taking the proper steps, you're going to be healthy, period. Yeah. With the proper consistency, you will be healthier.
And sometimes that's sowing of the seeds is what can I sow into somebody else's life who needs this?
Right.
Because as my mom would say, you can't outgive a giver. What am I sowing over here? Because it's going to come back. It's going to come back.
Yeah, usually tenfold in my experience.
Exactly.
At least.
That's right. So, and that ties right into another perfect thing I learned from BNI. I had dinner with Dr. Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI, many years ago. But the premise of that is, how can I help you? 5 words. How can I help you? If you go with that attitude and you're a giver instead of how can you help me, you're not going to get very far with the how can you help me, what's in it for me attitude, even though that's the default to our subconscious. But if you go out there with how can I help you, the more you give, the more you'll receive. And that goes into one of my other amazing mentors I've been fortunate to spend time with before he passed, Zig Ziglar. And I thank him profusely for all the wisdom that he passed to me through his audios and videos and live events.
Yeah,
but Zig's golden rule of business: you can have everything in life you want if you simply help enough others get what they want. Yep. That's it. And I'm a living example. I am not a spreadsheet person. I could care less. All I know is the more I give, the more I help, the more I serve, the more I'm compensated and taken care of financially. My goal is to help more people. My goal is to say yes to amazing interviews like this. My goal is to spread these insights with people. And I don't have any attachment to what's in it for me other than I'm hoping that this resonates with your audience. And one of the things we discussed connects the dots in their mind, connects the dots in their heart. And they're like, wow, because that fulfills my dream. When I met Zig and then I ended up meeting a whole bunch of other people, I said, you're doing what I want to do. I said, imagine one day if I could share my experiences and it could help someone. It could touch someone's heart the way that you touched my heart. At the time, I didn't know how that was going to happen, but my life unfolded to now. I've been on stages around the world and shared these insights, and people have come up with tears in their eyes, say, this changed my life. And my hope is that's what you have. And the cool part, and Mike's even witnessed this, he's like, cool part is from an audience, it's different for everybody. Some people, this was the big takeaway. Other people, this was the big. And I'm always amazed to hear what the big takeaways were because it's a wide, diverse range of what impacted you. So I'd love for Emerson and Mike to hear from you as to what impacted you from our discussion today. Because believe it or not, that's why we do what we do. We love hearing what impacted you. And the cool part is it's different for everybody. What impacted you from our discussion today? And that's the tip of the iceberg on the strategies that are discussed in my You Are Not Dead Yet strategies.
Well, there's a funny thing, and I have to share this with folks. A couple of years ago on the Marketer's Cruise, which we mentioned in the beginning, but Tom is one of the founders of. But each year, you get 400 or 500 people who are in all different types of marketing. But we were at dinner one night here about 2 or 3 years ago, and this guy comes. His shrimp cocktail came out, and the shrimp are kind of rubbery, folks. Okay, I'm just put it that way. All right. And there's a little saying that I've used over the years that Tom had just taken a mouthful of food. And I looked at the guy, I said, and there are 9 people at our table. I said, the third world just doesn't understand what the first world has to go through, do they? And Tom snorted, and everybody at the table snorted. And the guy just looked at it. The guy who got it didn't get it.
Right.
It went, exactly. He was like, well, for what you pay for this cruise, they could at least do the shrimp right. It's like, everybody else at the table got it.
Yep.
It's like the problems that we have are sometimes big problems, but there are people who have much bigger problems than we have. You're not dead yet. What are you doing with what you have right now? What are you doing with your life in the minutes, in the seconds, in the hours that you have right now? Yep. Not just to improve your life, improve the life of your family, of your community, of your country, of the world. What are you doing right now? And that's powerful. There's a powerful message, Tom.
And on that, tied into what Mike said earlier, here's the I think we go for roughly an hour. This will be probably the last idea worth knowing, which is another
we knock off at about 56 minutes or so there, give or take.
Okay, cool. So perfect time. So this is the two most important conversations you can have with yourself. And if it's not the age appropriate, adjust it accordingly. And you'll hear when I say this. So the first most important discussion you'll have is with yourself 20 years ago. So when I was 39 and I'm turning 40, this is when I first discovered this. Like, whoa, what would I tell my 20-year-old self who was just at that time joined the Marine Corps, like about to join the Marine Corps? And holy crap, you're in for one heck of a ride, brother. Like, and there's gonna be times when it doesn't look like there's any way out, but somehow just keep going. One step at a time, you make it through, right? So if you could sit and consult with yourself from 20 years ago, what would be the words of wisdom that you would share with that version of yourself from 20 years ago? And I said age appropriate because I've had some audiences that are, well, I'm only 25, so I'm only 5 years old. Okay, I get it. 10 years ago, right? Adjust accordingly. And then the second most important conversation is to have the conversation with your 20-year future self, the best version of health, relationships, and finances, the optimal version of you from 20 years from now. The wealthiest, the most wise, the most amazing version of you, made all the right choices, took all the right paths. What would that version of you come back and say to you now?
Yeah.
I got chills on my arms just thinking this. And there were times at my 40th, I had a good chat with my 20-year-old self. My 60-year version, which is now only 10 years from now, he was a mother. He was a hardcore Marine chewing me out. Like, listen here, Mr. Big Shot. You think you're all this, you think you're all that. If you don't start getting your stuff in order, getting on the right path, you're never going to get here, right? So he whooped my butt at 40 because I was all high and mighty thinking I was so amazing and great. That 60-year-old version of me, who was that best optimal version, whooped me in that mental conversation.
Well, that is great advice to end the show on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tom, I just have one question before we let you go. How'd you get
He's proud of me now, by the way.
Yeah. How'd you get him to name the island you live on after you?
You know, there's some choices that are tough, but I'm now the new representative of St. Thomas. St. Thomas Beal. Yeah. So I live on the island of St. Thomas. So now I'm St. Thomas Beal. I'm the mascot of St. Thomas.
Perfect.
We'll have to get him to take the Marketer's Cruise there this year.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Tom, thank you so much for coming on. You know, it's always exciting to catch up with you. You know, I just heard a very similar speech by you at a kava bar recently, and I picked up more points today that just I wasn't ready for, you know, a few weeks ago. So that's awesome. And I also want to say, everybody, I asked Tom if he could be on the show, and before he even asked what the show was about or when it was, he said yes.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
just
We'll have to have you on again, Tom.
Yes, we
I
will.
look forward to it. Well, thank you for the invitation. I had a great time here, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Send your feedback to these guys here. I want to hear what resonated with you. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thanks, Tom.